Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce and Joyce. Emmy voting is over.
As of last night. We're recording on Tuesday, not Wednesday.
Yes.
I
Schedule tweaks, but so this will go out Thursday. But Emmy voting's been over for days then if you're watching this.
Yeah.
Nominations are soon.
Yes, July 12th. So,
So we're gonna make our final picks next week.
mhm.
But that's gonna be a great episode. Definitely tune in for that. This one's gonna be just fun.
This is like the dead zone, so it's like the relaxing week off
Yeah. Uh
before everything goes to shit. So,
so can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens. But we're gonna start by talking about The Bear again, because I finished it and it rules.
it does. So I guess if you have not watched a full season yet, go away if you care about spoilers,
Definitely
because
go away. I've seen
we're gonna
people on
talk about
Twitter
spoilers.
on my
So,
For You. Joyce, you ever go to the For You tab on Twitter?
oh yeah, that's where I discover a lot of accounts I've muted too,
Ah,
because some
interesting. My
you know
mutes hold up strong, but I do
yeah,
see a
it's
lot of
it's not it's
accounts I
not
don't
it
follow.
doesn't display it, but sometimes if I'm like in replies somewhere and then it's like a blocked account, I'm like, oh, what is this? And I
Yeah,
say view and I was like, oh, this is someone I've muted. So
definitely get that. But
yeah.
one thing I've noticed in the For You tab, a lot of people pressed that the bear was dropped all at once. Seen a lot of
I
people.
I wanted I was gonna bring this up last week, but I guess now is a better time to talk about it since it is out for the public and people have watched it already. There were also a lot of takes about how it should have been a weekly drop and just like this should have been day and date
Yes.
instead. Like they should have switched. Um, yeah, so I don't really have an issue with it being another day and date. This time, I think it made sense for season one because it was a new show, you know.
Yeah.
And I think yes, like strategically, if you're thinking about the Emmys, it would make more sense for it to be weekly to have, everyone be part of the discourse week to week.
Right.
Or maybe do like two episodes a week, like hack style or something.
Sure.
But I also feel like having seen the whole season now, which I really, really love, and I think is better than the first season, I think it actually works better as a binge in a way. I think it will work fine week to week too, but I think there's something about how economical the episodes are, except for Fishes, which is 1 hour, um, that it doesn't really it's not like a cliffhanger every episode where you like need to watch the next episode, but it just has a very nice flow and the way they kind of really like the restaurant itself kind of stripped the season down to parts and really focused on the people behind this place. I think it was like a nice like fluid season for them, so it makes it like it's fine for it to be day and date and you could binge it all at once in one day like some people have done or not. I think it works both ways, but I understand why people want it to be week to week.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I would say the couple of things I thought was I agree with you that this season was a lot better. I think
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned this last week, and I kind of said that even having only watched the first four episodes, I felt like it was already much better because the first season was a movie that was retrofitted into a TV series. And
Yes, literally it was a movie script.
and you could tell because it's like the pilot's great and there's like two or three great episodes including like review and the finale that are like amazing, and then the rest of it is good, but it just kind of like feels a little like stretched. This felt like TV. It's like this is really well calibrated. Everything felt like it was like working together with it as a TV show. And so to me it was like this season was much more rewarding and better, and there are so many standout episodes that I think you could have maybe sustained a week to week, but at the same time I'm like, I don't think it really matters. And I think people will, it's not like going to be forgotten. Certainly. I don't think at all. And I think people will be able to go back to it many a time. And I do think, I don't know if it would have sustained the momentum. If you think about like the season, like we're right. Like there are a lot of great episodes. And I think a lot of them are through the back half. But I did talk to people who were like, I thought the early episodes until we get to like the Marcus episode, which is 4, were maybe not as good as the first season. I didn't necessarily agree with that because I actually think the first episode is great. But I was like, if you're kind of like doing, like you said, maybe they do 2 to start and then 1 next week. And then now we're into the Marcus one, which is going to be like July 4th or whatever, maybe you're like, oh, I'm kind of forgetting about this. And maybe it just doesn't, it gets lost in discourse. And I think now it's exploding in the discourse in a great way. Obviously, was a prime over the weekend, like when Emmy voting was happening. We said, like, we're still going to get a ton of Emmy nominations. And I think now I feel like it could even get more. I think they'll squeeze out more, maybe, based on this second season, even though we're voting on the first season. And then, yeah, I just think that it'll be easy to keep this in the conversation through the whole year because of maybe there's not as many shows, right? Because of the strike and because of stuff that's ended. So you get like a twofold. There's no Ted Lasso next year. There's no Succession next year. There's no Barry next year. There might not really be a lot of Abbott Elementary next year, depending on when they could get it going. And so all of a sudden it's like The Bear is going to be like the show, I think, for the rest of this year and certainly like into next year. So I don't think you have to worry about it like getting forgotten.
No. And no offense to Idol, which is ending one episode earlier than expected, but The Bear is the show of the summer.
Definitely. I have not gotta say, Joyce, love Sam Levinson. We know this. Not kept up with the Idol yet. Maybe I'll go back to it.
I have not either. But it's ending
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
I got a couple of notes. I have like
on the Idol?
Yeah, just about maybe like two little notes. I think would be, we could talk about if I ever watch it or if it's when we're looking for drama series contenders next year at this time.
Well, it won't even qualify because it only has 5 episodes, so it has to go like limited.
So it seems great.
But yeah, The Bear. I agree. I don't think it's going to be forgotten in any way. I think part of the reason people also want it to be week to week is because they don't want to be spoiled if they have not had a chance to watch it all since it dropped on Thursday.
It's a weird show because it's kind of like there's no spoilers really because nothing.
The spoilers are basically all the celebrity
cameos. That's, I guess, spoilers. And if you think a celebrity cameo is a spoiler, then I guess you're fucked. But it's not. And if you're watching this, like we said, we're going to talk about these celebrity cameos, I guess, because why not? Like, this will have no impact on the Emmy race this year. But for next year, certainly, they're full bore. There's a lot of potential nominees and winners, maybe, in the guest categories at the very least.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is probably going to be halfway to an EGOT by next September. So
seems like just planted her flag in the ground and we'll that's it. We're just going to have her win.
Did you read her Instagram post over the weekend?
I sure did. She was very happy. She said she knew she was going to play
when she watched the first season.
She watched the first season. She just knew.
And then she gets the call from Chris Storer.
And she's great on it. I think she's pretty good. That episode, that's Fishes. So that's the star-packed episode. So you have Jamie Lee Curtis, you have Sarah Paulson, John Mulaney, John Bernthal, Bob Odenkirk, who we knew was going to be in it. He was the only one who leaked somehow. I don't know how that's possible. That he was the only one who leaked. His publicist must be working overtime.
It was part of his Emmy campaign last season.
Yeah, great stuff. Who am I forgetting in that episode? Oh, Gillian. Is it a hard G or a soft G? Gillian Jacobs. Love her. As
and if you notice, since you're a Swiftie, she was wearing a 1989.
Oh, I noticed.
Shirt. Yeah.
Oh, I noticed. She was great, and I think in this, she's never looked more like Anne Hathaway. I think she's like Anne Hathaway's clone, and she looks so much like Anne Hathaway.
It was the hair. It was like the loose curls.
She looks so much like her. Who else did we forget? Oh, Mulaney, we said, right? I think that was it. And Bernthal. Like, those are the big stars.
Yeah, I mean, Bernthal, Oliver Platt, we've seen them before, so it's like that wasn't like huge.
Right.
Surprises.
And then later in the season, Olivia Colman coming for another guest actress.
Amazing scene. Forks, my favorite episode of the entire series. The best episode of the season. Do not at me.
Do not argue.
There's so many people because a lot of people prefer Fishes, and I get it. Like, that is like the flashier episode, but I think Forks is overall the better episode.
I think real ones know it's Forks.
Yes,
we're already rewatching the season, and so
I've rewatched multiple episodes already, which I never did with season 1. I never rewatched season 1 at all.
The only ones I rewatched from season 1 are like the finale. I think the finale is like amazing in season 1. But so we rewatched Fishes last night, and then I fell asleep, so I couldn't watch Forks. But so we'll watch that today probably. But yeah, Fishes is good, but Forks is better. I just think it is. And
yeah, Forks can do Fishes, but Fishes could not do Forks.
That's good. I really loved Olivia Colman's cameo. put her on the list for an Emmy nomination.
The thing, it was a big beat for Olivia Colman because she also had Secret Invasion last week, which that show is very okay. But she's great in it. I love watching her act because you could just tell that she loves acting and she's always having a blast no matter what the role calls for. Like, you can see that in Secret Invasion, and then very next day you could see it in Forks, that final scene with Evan Moss-Bachrach. And it's like just this beautiful two-hander between them. And it's a moment for Richie, and you could just tell that she's happy to be part of this moment for him and his character,
Yes. 100% agree. I love all the post-Oscar choices Olivia Colman has made, because I think like there would have been an easy world where she just does like prestige bullshit, and she's just like, but what if I was on Heartstopper for like a little bit, or like The Bear, or like Secret Invasion.
3.
Yeah, it's great. I'm like, I love her so much. You're exactly right. She seems like she is having the greatest time as an actor. She just loves
She still did Mitchell's versus Machines. She was committed to that before she won the Oscar, and they thought she would back out afterwards. And she's like, no, I still want to do it. So.
And she's great on Mitchell's. That's a movie we watched a lot a couple of years ago, and really fun. She's a good voice. So, and then also Will Poulter, another standout.
Yeah, we mentioned him last week. So
he rules.
Olivia Colman is Evan's Will Poulter.
Yes. And I would love to see Will Poulter get in a guest. I would love to see Bernthal get in. I have Bernthal in still for this year because I thought he was so impactful in the first season that if you watch the first season and love the first season, you'd have to like consider him. He's still not high in the odds, but I'm still sticking with him. And for talking about this season in The Bear, I'm ready to put our pal Oliver Platt in as well for guest actor.
Well, I put Oliver Platt back into guest actor after season 2, even though this is for season 1.
So we were just talking about this before. He will be eligible as a supporting actor for season 2.
Yeah.
And I absolutely 100% think he will get nominated next year for season 2.
I feel like as soon as I watched the Steve Bartman scene, I was like, this should be his Emmy clip next year.
Incredible moment. And I just think he's so great in the whole season, and he gets such like a great emotional payoff at the end with the banana and Richie, and like all of this is great. And the thing I like about The Bear just in general, and I think you see it with his character, and like overall, like we're just talking about, is like for a show that is not, I feel like it does subvert expectations in a lot of different ways. Like I think there's a world where that is like, boy, how many times have we seen like the fake Tony Soprano type mafia guy or whatever he is, right? And like he's kind of like a total asshole and like not out, doesn't have the best interests of the characters in mind. But in this show, he actually does. And he's like really honest about it. Like, I will sell this place if it fails, but I really don't want it to fail. Like, I love that about his character. I was like, this guy is like very, like legitimately seems to care for the Brazados, but also is like, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I thought that was great. And I thought you saw it with, again, like you said, like the Olivia Colman, I think they're building
like
up
all of this dodging stuff, like all those people at these high-end joints, they could have been assholes.
Right. It's like a great refutation of the menu, which I absolutely hated. So it's like happy to see that. And this
it's
is
also, like, a great rebuke of like, you gotta be like all geniuses are assholes, right? You gotta be an asshole to be a genius. And we do know, in the real world, a lot of hot-tempered chefs.
Right. And it's like a lot of the season is like, what if Carmy is the asshole and wrong? Mm-hmm. And like, if without Carmy, does it work? Like maybe you don't need to be.
He doesn't need fun or he doesn't need enjoyment or amusement. So,
but maybe he does.
Is it with Claire Bear though? Is it with Claire Bear? No.
Not my favorite character, Claire Bear.
No, that's my only quibble of the season. That storyline. But I know why it happened, but it was kind of like fast tracked.
I think there are ways it could have worked a little better than it does.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I have Bernthal. Do you think Bernthal will get in for season 1 based on season 2? And do you think Platt will get in on season 2?
I put Platt in for season 1.
Right.
So I had him in like a couple weeks ago, and then I dropped him, but I had him in originally because I felt like he is also just like the type of veteran actor they would just go for, like name check.
Exactly right.
In these categories, even if someone else on the show might be just as good or better.
You don't think Bernthal qualifies as like a name check at this point? Also,
no. I mean, it would be great if both of them got in, but I don't know if
I'm still sticking with both of them. So I'm not sticking with them, right? Because I still have Bobby Cannavale in for Bupkis. I'm gonna ride that one right into the ground, and then I'll be like, well, but if I was gonna take someone out, I would take out Bobby Cannavale and put in Oliver Platt, and then I would have Nathan Lane, Steve Martin, Martin Short, Luke Kirby, Pedro Pascal, Bernthal, and Platt.
I dropped Hank Azaria for
Right.
Oliver. So I have Nathan, the Martins, Luke Kirby, Leslie Odom Jr. for Abbott, and Sam Richardson.
Right. So big recency bias on display here with The Bear. And we already knew it was going to get a ton of nominations. But do you think the second season will help it get further? How will the second season impact its nomination total, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, we talked about this last week because it's premiering 4 days before voting closed. And we already know the industry loves it.
Right.
It crushed the guilds over the winter. And it was already secure for a bunch of nominations. And then it's just kind of like how if like who's gonna be like immediately watching, or like if you're immediately watching season 2 as it drops, you're probably already voting for The Bear anyway. I would hope, I guess, if people watched season 2 before voting ended on Monday night, that they all voted for Evan Moss-Bachrach.
So I think Eben was definitely given a huge help. I still think he was like probably close to getting in without the second season, because I think the show, like we said, was such a
I had him in before season 2, but now I'm like, he can win.
I actually think he could win too. And I guess I would say like this, we'll see how the nominations total shake out and like what happens with Ted and Abbott. And I still think like those are obviously incredibly competitive shows to win. But I do think that The Bear could be helped just broadly, because I think one of the biggest talking points or demerits against it was that like it's a drama. And we even saw that with some pundit picks, Joyce, when they were doing their like what they would do, dream ballots, or like we're gonna put The Bear in drama. And I've seen like other people like say like The Bear would be competitive, but it's a drama, not a comedy, right? Like that kind of thing. But the second season is a comedy. It feels like at
very
least
funny.
It's very funny, and like I said, it's more TV, so it does feel more sitcom-y, if not broad. It is definitely like setting up jokes, and like there are funny things and sequences and like manic stuff that's happening, in addition to like this really crazy drama and like obviously like heartbreaking stuff that you see as well. But it is funny. And so I think if you're like hanging your hat on like, well, I don't have to worry about The Bear winning because it's a drama, the second season will kind of nuke that, because like people are going to be remembering the second season and watching and be like, oh, that's a comedy, it's funny. And so I think it could win, basically, is what I'm saying, in the end, depending on how all the nomination totals shake out and like what we see next week or in 2 weeks. But I do think it could actually win, and this season would help it because it's funny.
Yeah, I've always had it in second behind Ted.
Yeah.
So just because it's already proven that it's stronger than Abbott with the guilds. So it is hard, like, because it's, no kind of comedy of that ilk has won series before. So it is like hard to go there because, like Transparent never won. Barry, obviously heartbreaking for me. Atlanta. So but I think like The Bear is arguably, it could just be like recency bias, obviously, but I think it's coming the closest to winning out of all of those shows.
I really think it could, because I think you have like a world where there's obviously great affection among actors for it. We've always kind of said like the actors love Abbott and they clearly like Ted, or at least they have in the past. But I don't think The Bear is like, not like, I think you could argue like Barry was like the filmmaker show, right? And not necessarily the actor show, even though it's won acting awards. But I'm like, this show I feel like does kind of thread the needle between like, oh, it's like the serious, like crafty show, but also actors love it.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of other branches love it too. Like last summer, just like you we talked to a bunch of people, like interviews, did a lot of interviews, and just like shooting the breeze with them beforehand or afterwards, off the record, just talking about like what you're watching. And a lot of them were watching The Bear because it was recommended to them by their friends and they were loving it.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't know if I would, you can call it a dark horse because I think I, like you, have had it in second place behind Ted the whole time. But I'm also like, I really think I never really felt like, I just kind of didn't take it seriously to win until the second season dropped. Now I actually think it could win. And I guess it depends on like what happens with the nominations, but I'm like, I really do think we could see it winning, and like this wins go between like Abbott and the Bear. Like Shirley Ralph wins supporting, Jeremy Allen White wins lead, and then maybe like Richie wins Evan supporting actor.
Have you moved them to first?
No, I haven't really made a lot of change. We'll do our final picks next week, like we said. Just a comedy. I haven't made a lot of changes. The only change I made was I put Shirley Ralph back in first for supporting actress off my recency bias of Hannah Waddingham in the finale for Ted. And I actually moved Io Edeberry up to second in supporting actress because I just think, again, the Bear would be like, have a great boost. And boy, she rules. She's so good. And I just think she's only going to have I don't think a lot, we'll talk about this campaigning, but I'm just like, visibility, I think, matters. And like, Io is like all over the place now. And she's going to be in this movie Bottoms, which I don't think will be like a big hit because like movies aren't hits anymore, but she's at least going to be out there, assuming there's not like an actor strike and stuff. So it's like, and that's in August. So I was like, all this will just help her, I think, stay in the conversation all summer. And she's so good on The Bear. And she's legitimately funny, even in the first season. So I'm like, I think Sydney's like, I don't think she'll win, but I put her in second. And I have Janelle James in third and Hannah Waddingham in fourth.
Okay. Did you keep Juno?
I did. I kept Juno. I took Sarah Goldberg out. I'm going to go ride or die with Lisa Ann Walter, who I saw people saying like should have been in The Bear, and she retweeted.
And then she was like, it's not too late.
Season 3, baby. Let's go. She'd be great on The Bear. Holy shit.
Next season, they're just going to have celebrities in every single episode.
I mean, I also think that shows, like we're saying, like how, like, to get all those people to come in just for like basically a day, I think shows that there obviously is a great affection among actors for it. Maybe it's like a small self-curated sample size, but I'm like, I don't know. John Mulaney doesn't need to do The Bear. Like,
but it's Chicago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I've always thought The Bear will / like could win directing for review.
Definitely.
Again, they were very strategic with their submissions, just one in writing and directing. And I think it also win writing too.
I think it could too.
I think a lot of people think Abbott will win writing again, but what if it doesn't?
Yeah. And I think too, the strategy matters because I think having just a one Bear episode, there's 3 different Abbott episodes, I believe, who are submitted.
And there's 1 TED episode for writing, but 5 in directing.
And so I'm like, I think that'll help. And I think that'll, really help The Bear as well. I'm still torn on supporting actor. Just the whole world wants Tyler James Williams to win. Somebody on our comments was like, Chris doesn't like him, which is not true. I actually do like him because of everybody hates Chris, which I thought was like a funny comment.
Do you also hate yourself because everybody hates Chris?
That was the gag, I guess. I just like, I keep thinking is like, and honestly watching The Bear and thinking of Eben maybe winning, I just can't think of like a lot of, it's just such a straight performance in a category that I think rewards flashiness. And so that's why I'm like not convinced Tyler James Williams could win. But at the same time, maybe that's wrong. And maybe being not flashy actually sets him apart. Because if you look at the rest of the nominees potentially in this category, it's a lot of big, broad, loud performances, right? Like it would be, he's definitely like the apple in a bag of oranges. I don't know what the cliche is, Joyce, but it's like he definitely stands out because it's different from every other performance in here, because it's like the straight man kind of like romantic lead / like just nice guy. Not a lot of these other actors I think in contention would be able to cop to that. So maybe he does win based on that, but at the same time I'm just like, I just think the flashier performance usually wins here. I still have him in second, long story short.
I mean it's already good for him, obviously, that he made it in last year when no one was predicting him. So He already has the support. It's not like we're predicting him for his first nomination.
No. I'm predicting him to get nominated, obviously.
And
won't get nominated.
So, but I do think like I think some of the predictions are also because he won the Globe,
Right.
right? Even though like there's no overlap between the bodies.
Yeah.
But it's like obviously a high profile win. So that is like some, momentum a little, but then he wasn't nominated at SAG when he was predicted to be nominated.
How much
At
stock
SAG.
do you put in like that kind of momentum from the winter for these shows? Do you think people actually pay attention to this in the winter?
You mean like while they're voting? I don't think a lot of them are like Googling like, oh, who won the Golden Globes?
Right. Like, do
I
you
think
think
they
people
probably
even...
remember like at SAG, they might, if like you're an actor, you might remember who you voted for at SAG.
Right. Maybe.
So but I don't know if they're like, oh, Kevin Costner won the Globe for Yellowstone.
Right.
And he wasn't there because he was stuck in a flood. So
I was like I said, like I'm waiting. I still have Brett Goldstein in first there. I'm waiting to see, like I'll see how the if Ted really underperforms, I think I would move off of him. But if it like is the most nominations for a comedy series or whatever, I would probably still stick with him. But I guess we'll see. But I think the top three are definitely those three: Brett Goldstein, Tyler James Williams, and Evan Moss-Bachrach, based on the strength of those shows. Presumably, those are the three strongest shows. So why wouldn't they be the three strongest nominees?
yeah, and I think Eben is finally like in the top 7 like since season 2, right? Because he was like hovering right below it, or he might have been in 8th, but then we found out there were only going to be 7 spots.
Let me see. 1, 2,
Right?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's right at 7.
So now he's right at 7.
He passed Nick Mohammed. The top 8.
Well, it's 7.
I know, but just the top. Well, I guess the top 8 for us is it's 7, but it's Tyler James Williams, Brett Goldstein, Henry Winkler, Anthony Kerrigan, Harrison Ford, who I finally dropped, obviously, Tony Shalhoub, Evan Moss-Bachrach, Nick Mohammed, and Phil Dunster. I dropped Harrison Ford to put back in Eben, and I kept Phil in because I just think Phil will have like a lot of number one support, because I think if people loved this season of Ted or liked it, he obviously was the best part of the season. So I think he will get like a lot of number one support, and that'll put him in, even though he hasn't been nominated previously. And I don't think you could say the same for Harrison Ford, who feels like I liked him. I'll put him like in the 5 or 6 range.
Yeah. I obviously still have my guy Stephen Root for another week until
we got to keep. We're not making these are not final picks. We're just gonna.
But I already had Eben in, so
yeah. No, I know.
I know. Yeah, did. But then like after Forks, I was like, he can win this because this episode could be his rainbow.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what happened with Brett. I think, like Ted was always going to win series back then 2 years ago, but like Brett was not predicted to win the entire time after nominations, because people were like, there's 4 Ted guys in there, but that was like Ted season 2 was airing, and it was a huge season for Roy.
Yes, 100%. I think people forget that he was just one of 4 dudes from Ted Lasso at that point, and then that episode happened like literally right during voting for wins, I believe. Right?
It happened mid-August at Rainbow, but like even like leading up to it, because you have like the Christmas episode and everything.
Right.
He was just part of a lot of storylines in season 2. And and then that, I think, even though you're technically voting for the previous season, I think it's hard to keep the current season out of mind.
It seems unlikely to be able to compartmentalize in that fashion.
Yeah. So like it was just like a vibe. Like at that time, it was like, I was like, well, like he's gonna win. Like it was so clear he was gonna win.
Yeah.
And I can see a situation like that for Evan. He has to get in first. So that's the biggest hurdle. And the bear and like that episode and everything have to sustain the buzz and hype through voting in mid-August too. So I think that's also another thing why people want it to be weekly, the drop, because that's the 7th episode. So it would have dropped around then.
Right. Let me ask you this about the bear. We're obviously in the tank for the bear. It's like our new Succession, it seems, for you and I at least. Nothing can.
I mean, listen, Forks is like up there with with Open Eyes and Connor's Wedding for me.
I was wondering this, and I saw people tweeting about this. The one big difference between the first and second season is that there's obviously a less of a focus on Carmy,
which I'm totally fine with.
We're fine with, but I was wondering, like, does that impact Jeremy's? Like, let's say I think the Bear's going to do really well in nominations. Let's say Ted is like really strong, even though like the third season was like polarizing. They end up like really going crazy for it. It's a lot of nominations. Is there a world where like that is a closer race than we're giving it credit for now? Because if you think of season 1, I think Jeremy was like amazingly good, and Jason in season 3 of Ted not in it as much, but neither is Carmy and Jeremy Allen White in season 2 of The Bear. So I was just like, is it possible that could impact that race because there's just not as much Carmy or not as many moments in the second season where you're like, man, that was a great Carmy moment compared to the first season where I think you had a bunch.
No, I think he has like enough. It's just more that Carmy took a back seat in multiple episodes.
Right.
But like there are a lot of big moments for the character throughout the season. And then the finale, he's locked in the fridge.
The finale's pretty solid.
A lot of big moments of him in the fridge too. So
I agree. I was just wondering. I was like, I guess I would say like I still am going to predict Jeremy Allen White because he steamrolled through the winter and like nothing should change the way he would steamroll through the rest of the season. But I do think it's closer because he just wasn't in it as much or was not as much of a main focus on Carmy as the first season. And I think if people
I don't think that matters because like if people are voting with both seasons in mind and you're voting with both seasons in mind.
Sure.
So
I guess that's true too. Joyce, what do you think? So we're going to talk about a little about campaigning now that everything's done. How'd you like the campaign?
I mean, you're the one who loves campaigning. So what was your favorite campaign this season?
Well, I loved Kieran's campaign for Succession.
He was really working it before he had to go to Poland to shoot
really hard. He did the THR roundtable. He did the actors on actors. He did postmortems with Vanity Fair. I saw just like, man, any kind of event or anything he could seemingly do, he went for. It was like, I'm going to be a lead. I'm going to go for it and own that I'm the lead. And I'm going to just force my way into nomination and maybe a win. And especially because while Brian Cox was very vocal, loved Brian Cox, loved his honesty in interviews, obviously not as vocal throughout the rest of the season because Logan died. And Jeremy Strong, I didn't see as much with him either. He did a few things. I know he did like the LA Times, I think, right? Like their roundtable.
He did Vulture.
And he did a big chat with Vulture
after the finale.
And he did a great interview, frankly, with the SpawnCon HBO Succession podcast. I really like.
Yeah, he was on the penultimate and the finale episodes of that, and then he was also on CNN too after the finale.
So he did a lot, but not the traditional tradie ones.
He obviously was burned by the New Yorker profile in 2021. So I think he's kind of been a little bit more selective with press since then. But everything he did this season, like all the interviews, like I feel like he doesn't come across well in print, but he does if you like audio wise and visually, like if you listen to the pods, that you can tell when he's joking, but it's hard to capture that in print, especially if you're like writing him or like your hook for it is like he's this like self-serious actor.
He's really not.
Like he takes his craft very seriously, obviously, and he's very passionate about it, which I think like
so is Kieran.
It's highly commendable and respectable. But he also has a sense of humor if you watch and listen to enough interviews with him.
Yeah, I felt like I don't think the New Yorker profile was incredibly super fair, maybe, or the way it was presented, and certainly it spiraled out of control online. So like totally meaningless now what actually was in the profile, even compared to like what the discourse about it is. But I do think like he is pretty thoughtful and doesn't take himself that seriously, but he does care about what he's doing, which I don't think makes him any different from like Kieran Culkin, like who is the goofy guy, right?
Yeah,
like, or whatever. But like
they both care about what they're doing. They just have different personalities.
Right. And I think he was not done a great service by Brian Cox continually talking about it. And like Brian Cox has no fucks to give about anything,
and I love it.
And I love it too. But I also don't take him super seriously at times because I'm just like, he's grumpy about everything, Brian Cox. So of course he's going to be like, Jeremy Strong needs to like take a bong rip or something to calm down or whatever. You know what I mean? Just like shut up already. But I'm like, he probably isn't really like the guy mad about everything. I don't take him that seriously.
Yeah, I mean that amazing behind the scenes clip when Kieran crashed Brian and Emily Blunt's Actors on Actors photo shoot, and then Kieran hugs him. Brian does not react, like he hugs him from the back, and then Kieran's just like, "Are you grumpy today?"
So good. So if you pay attention to all that stuff, I mean, the people who I felt like campaigned the most were like, and this is completely anecdotal, but based on what I saw in all the stuff, it's like a lot of The Last of Us. So Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey were a lot of places, seemingly, really, and Craig Mazin too. Just like full bore. We're just going for it. So that was a big one. I felt like I saw a lot of Emily Blunt and a lot of
a lot. Yeah, she did a lot.
She did a lot. I saw a lot of even though it kind of
Phil Dunster did a lot. He was
Phil
everywhere.
Dunster was everywhere.
Just like Roy Kent, every fucking
yes.
where.
The Ted people were all over the place, and they brought the Ted people as a group. Kind of like a remember how much you love these actors kind of thing. That usually works. It's like an ensemble thing, and it reminded me of like a Black Panther or Hidden Figures type. Like, we're gonna give this to the SAG ensemble win because we love all these people, right? But the movie, mixing award seasons. But I'm like, the movie was not something that voters took seriously. But man, they love those casts. And
yeah,
I think
they people just love the actors and the characters.
Yes, and this season with Ted was way more focused on like all the supporting characters. I saw like Colin. Is it Colin Harris who plays Billy on Ted, or is Colin the actor? Character? Hang on, is it Billy Harris is the actor?
Yeah, Billy Harris.
Billy Harris, the actor who plays Colin. Man, Billy Harris was everywhere. Rightly so. He had a big.
Well, like they trotted out a lot of the actors, like the players, for postmortems after their like big episodes, so
and so I feel like Ted did a great job campaigning the actors, and even in mid episodes that people weren't hot on, it was still like, you love these guys and gals.
And the thing was, like, Juno wasn't really part of the preseason promo because she was filming, so like they trotted her out now that she's free.
Her and Phil did a lot of work. We saw Juno did, I think, a Vanity Fair thing with Riley Keough, I believe. Was that theirs? They did hey, we're friends. We used to live together.
Yeah, they also did she and Phil also did a SAG talk that's like constantly on my YouTube homepage when I go to YouTube.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, whether this matters in the long run, I kind of think it does, just because it keeps people's focus. But at the same time, like, you're not going to forget that Juno Temple's on Ted Lasso. She's already been nominated.
Yeah, it's just like, for these shows that are already hits and have already done well historically, I don't know how much it matters when we know they already watched the show. Like, I get focusing on Phil because he's never been nominated.
I think I think it matters for someone like Phil because I think it's like, he's very likable as a seemingly, I don't know Phil Dunster from a hole in the wall, but he seems very nice. And so I think that helps having him out there, and then being like, he's never been nominated for a show that you obviously really love. If you're an Academy member, it seems like, oh, that's something we have to fix. And like I said, he was like the best part of the season. And so maybe it's like an easy, we're going to put him in, I'll vote for him because I want it, even though he hasn't been nominated before.
Yeah, but for someone, like they've nominated Juno before. She hasn't won.
Yeah.
But they've nominated for her, like they've nominated Brett before, they've nominated Hannah before, they both won.
What did you think of, like, what did you notice was not doing a lot of campaigning, would you say? And does that matter?
Well, so I like, this is a dual like non-campaign or a quiet campaign, I guess. But there was not a lot of just season 2 promo lead up to The Bear either.
No.
Which I kind of see a lot with surprise season 1 hits, because then it's like by season 2, it's like, oh, they know their hot stuff, so they're going to be more selective about things. But they didn't go like full court press with the season 2 promo or even the campaigning. Like, I think Io did some stuff. She was on the THR roundtable.
I saw Io. I didn't see a lot of, and I saw like Eben did like a Times profile this past weekend for the show.
That was,
for season 2. I wonder how much the writer's strike impacted their like plans with like Chris and Joanna, I guess. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely obviously been fewer like showrunner press and interviews since the strike, of course. But then after like a couple weeks ago, WGA tweaked the guidelines.
Yeah.
So like, if you're a writer, you can do promo for completed work, but just not through anything coordinated by the studio or anything the studio has hired to do. So you could do like the writer could reach out to press yourself or through your own personal publicist,
right?
Which then a lot of people did. Like Jesse Armstrong did a bunch of finale postmortems after that.
I'm pretty cynical, so I just don't believe that they're actually. I think they were just like, you could do whatever you want, and like people are just. I don't think there's somebody checking to see whether like HBO is involved.
No,
in that
but I think it's more that like the writers have standards, so like they themselves wouldn't like do something that a studio asked when they're on strike.
Right, but I wouldn't be surprised if the studios talked to their writer's publicist and was like, "Hey, if you want to do these, let us know."
No,
I don't know.
I don't disagree with that, but I think
Okay.
like whether or not the writer themselves do the interviews, like they're
I
making
see.
that on their own. Like they're
I
not
see.
going to be bullied by the studio into
Right.
doing it.
No, I think that's true. I don't think they'll be bullied, but I don't think that I don't think the reps are not talking to the studio. I guess would be my.
No, I don't think that's ever been a
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
But like they're not gonna like do the interview that's set up by the studio.
Right. The studio's not going to be like, Jesse Armstrong, you have to talk to NPR.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, first of all, HBO doesn't care. They don't need.
I mean, Jesse Armstrong may be a bad example, but like like whoever is showrunner X is not gonna be bullied into doing it, even if their reps are talking to the studio about like when they could do press opportunities. The Bear, I agree though, did not do a lot of press, but they could also be saving that press for season 2 for later, even though it was like a quick drop.
They could. It's. I mean, the SAG could strike by the end of this week, like because the deal ends June 30th, so who knows. Right. But then it's just like if they do go on strike, then what's going to happen with like phase 2 campaigning with the actors, with like writers also still on strike?
Yeah, that would be. I'm not anticipating an actor strike, but I wouldn't go on record saying that I don't think it'll happen, because like that's a surefire way to be proven wrong.
I mean, they've already, it was like 2 days ago, they released that statement claiming that talks were going well. So,
and then I saw another seemingly. I gotta say, Joyce, I'm not a negotiator. Just broadly speaking,
you know what? Like I don't really care about any of these like sources says things because it's all just spin.
It made me laugh because what you said was right. They released that thing and people were like, "Hey, the talks are going really well." And then the next day I saw one, it's like they're not going that well, which I was like,
yeah. And then like all the people who are in the room where it happens are tweeting about it too. So I'm like, I don't care. Like, everyone has their version of the story. So I'll just wait until the thing happens or not.
I would just say, like, if you're negotiating something and you're trying to strike a deal and you say it's going well, not that kind of lessens your what is the word?
It's going well for you, probably.
Or maybe it's not, or whatever it is, but you don't want to like give up your high ground in that case, right? Like, I guess that would so anyway, we'll see what happens. But I was
but also because of like the impending strike, you have a lot of like movies too, like Barbie, just like banking press.
Yes, a lot of press. A lot of press for that, a lot of press for Indiana Jones, a lot of press for Mission Impossible, just to make sure. What do you think of Abbott's campaign?
Obviously Quinta unable / has not done a lot for obvious reasons, but Lisa Ann Walter is out there doing a lot. She's like I think she's like part of not the negotiating committee, but it's like something part of like with the strike. Yeah, because she's also in WGA.
Yeah, she's been doing a lot.
Yeah, and she's heavily tweeting a lot of socials,
which I love.
Yeah, I love it too. So
and Cheryl Lee Ralph just all over the place too. I felt like
she did it last year too.
Yeah. And Janelle James, seemingly. I think
she did less stuff, but like she's more of like a Jeremy Strong in this scenario.
Yeah. What other about drama? What other drama stuff did you notice campaign wise?
Drama.
Like you said, Last of Us went hard.
Pedro was everywhere. What else is in drama?
How about The Old Man? I felt like that was in a lot of places. Jeff Bridges.
Well, really Jeff Bridges was great on the round table, and no one got his Tron joke.
He was in a video game once too. Tron.
Got sucked in.
Holy shit, that was so good. That's like one of the funniest jokes.
I know, and went over all.
Not a single. I like to think that Kieran was like mad at himself later for not getting that kind of quick joke.
The best part of Kieran being part of those two things and the actors on actors of Claire Danes, his old pal, his old Igby Goes Down co-star, is like you really see what an intent listener he is. Like he leans in when someone's talking, and he's like really listening to you. It's not just going in one ear and out the other. And he asks questions of the other people. I like those roundtables when like they're just talking amongst themselves.
He could also have a great career as a talk show host if he wanted.
Yeah, he was basically moderating that roundtable by the end. So
He would be really good at like hosting like a podcast or like a talk show. He'd be very good, Kieran.
Yeah. So Yellow Jackets obviously also aired this spring. They, last year Melanie Lynskey did a lot of press, and I don't think she did that much this time, which is also fine because it's like second year. She got the nomination last year. She's like safe for a nomination this year, but this year she's done this before for like everything, but she was really advocating for her co-stars.
Yes, for sure. And I also felt like the stuff she did was like also in service of like other not like to Natasha Lyonne. I felt like they did her actors on actors, and she was like, it was way more focused on Natasha to get her in almost, and they're not in the same category, so that helps probably. But I was like, oh, like she was like like she's using her clout like to lift up other voices, maybe.
Yeah, she's really going to bat obviously for Sophie Nélisse.
Yes.
To get in, they could be nominated in the same category because Sophie's going.
Would love to see it, but I stopped predicting it a while ago.
I did too. I just feel like the finale or like the season didn't end on the best note, as we discussed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. It feels like it just left. I think I actually like the finale a lot, so I don't think it's actually even a quality thing, but I think ending the season the same weekend as you said this, as Succession ending, just like kind of took all the wind out of its sails and never recovered. Like people aren't talking about it, doesn't seem like as much. It's purely anecdotal.
Well, this was another thing I was thinking about a couple weeks ago, or last week actually. Because obviously they killed Natalie in the finale, Juliette Lewis. And I'm assuming it was just personal preference. She didn't do any press, like no postmortems immediately after the fact, like nothing like Brian Cox did after Connor's wedding, right? And then she just posted like a long message on Instagram talking about like her time and appreciation, like the show and everything. Lovely post. But yeah, she did nothing. She did, as we talked about, she did a CBS Sunday Morning interview like 2 weeks before the finale. And that was it. And they did have some in-person events at the beginning of the season. But yeah, it felt like that should have been like a big thing. It was a big thing for them to kill off one of the main characters. But it feels like the conversation around that just petered out like the rest of that week, whereas like we're still talking about Logan's death. Obviously, they're different shows and different impact because we got 7 more episodes to see what happened after Logan died and the season was over after Yellow Jackets or after they killed Natalie. But yeah, she didn't do a lot of press, and then she finally did an interview like last week.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And they didn't really do a lot of press in general for the finale, again, because I think of the strike and stuff. And that was like before like they tweaked the rules. And then by the time they tweaked the rules, people have moved past Yellow Jackets, it feels like. So maybe not great timing, the whole thing. I guess we'll see how that ends up I don't know if it'll impact it at all, but maybe it will. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Well, yeah, White Lotus, like the actors were like, pretty consistently campaigning.
Yes. And also didn't really need to, because I feel like no one has stopped thinking about that show, and like it's just like kind of there and people are like, got it, we like it.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I think there's less of a consensus with the guys of like who could get in.
Yeah.
I feel like the woman did more press though. Not so much the guys.
I didn't really see any of the guys do press. I could have been missing this, but I mean, I saw like Theo James.
Well, Michael Imperioli wasn't around table.
Yes. And like Theo James and Will Sharp did stuff.
Yeah, he was. Theo did the Actors on Actors with Brett, right? It was Brett. Yeah. So, but I also in drama supporting actor, I dropped F. Murray Abraham.
Welcome to my life. Who'd you put in?
I put in Tom Hollander, so I still have double White Lotus because I still have Imperioli in there.
Yes, I don't have Imperioli, but I do have Tom Hollander. I think Tom Hollander is likely to get nominated because like I thought he's in so much of his stuff with Jennifer Coolidge, and he's like that will help because people are watching Jennifer Coolidge, and he's great. He's such a slimy character and like very slippery, and he does it so well. I just love it. I love that character and performance. So I hope he gets in. You said you wanted to do a check-in. I wrote down here Joyce's 2 friends.
Oh no, I mean this will take like 1 minute. My 2 friends were also Emmy voters.
Yes.
So they can only vote in program categories.
Sure.
So obviously this year is a restricted ballot, so they can't list as many things as they probably could in the past.
Sure.
I will say that Succession and The Bear were on both of their ballots.
Okay.
And they struggled filling out every slot when it's 8. And I wonder how many people will struggle to do 8.
I do think we talked about this with drama series. Let's just say focused on that. It's tough.
I mean, it's the same with like comedy too, because it's like there's like a pretty obvious 6 or whatever. And that, but I also wonder like psychologically what that does to you, because like when you have the unlimited ballot and there's no limit, you could just list 2 things and move on and feel fine, or you could list like 13 things and move on and feel fine. But is there kind of like an unconscious pressure you have when you see like a locked 8 slots in there? Like, do you feel like bad if you don't fill out the whole 8, or you do not care because you're like, I don't care about any of these other shows?
So if I don't know, and do you think if they end up like, like if a lot of people don't fill out the 8, right? Let's say they do 5 or 6. How does that you think impact which of the fringe shows at the end? Let's say we get in for 7 and 8. So like for me, like my comedy picks, like we said, there's a set locked 6, right? Like that would be just completely shocking if they didn't get nominated, which is Ted Lasso, The Bear, Abbott, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Barry, and Only Murders. And then 7 and 8, I have Shrinking and Wednesday. But it could really be any number of different shows. So is it like, do you think there's a better chance that something like shocking, like, I don't know, The Other Two or Jury Duty actually gets in at the bottom?
I mean, I would love to see it if it's those 2.
But do you think that is more likely based on this, like, because like it's tough to fill out, I guess?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, we kind of talked about this with Wednesday last week. So I could see you on an unlimited ballot voting for Wednesday because that was something you watched and you enjoyed, and you had unlimited slots and you already wrote down all your faves already. And now you're just like listing shows you enjoy. But when you see like you have a set 8, and then like, are you more selective in being like, I'm only going to vote for my actual faves and not things I just enjoyed? So would you include Wednesday in that?
Maybe not, but would you include Jury Duty? And then even if
if that was like your fave, I guess you would.
If enough people are not filling out, let's say, then there's a chance that even though Wednesday, there's a chance they say that Jury Duty could get in on fewer ballots, maybe higher ranked than Wednesday on more ballots.
Well, it's not like ranked, so it's like the appearances,
right?
So
I could see this happening. I could see like a shocking, like out of left field sort of show getting in instead of like a Wednesday or Shrinking or Poker Face, which are like the popular choices for that 7-8 spot.
Yeah. I mean, you just think like the restricted ballot would help the passion picks.
Right.
So, and also I guess like if you are filling out all the slots, like, and you get down to your final spot, it's like, what am I going to put in here? I have to like really think about what I actually really, really love this season.
Similar to like why you, and then now I have months later moved off House of the Dragon. Because like it seems like a show that is like people probably liked, but they're not gonna like love it enough to like put it high on their ballot, and like maybe they just don't even care and they'll put something they like more, like a Bad Sisters or an Andor.
Yeah, I mean, like my thing with House of Dragon is also that it just tanked at the guilds over the winter.
Right.
So just like a poor performance, and it really did get overshadowed subsequently on its own network in its slot by, well, first The White Lotus, and then The Last of Us, and then Succession.
Right. Joyce, we'll do all our final picks next week. But we could do emails now. You could email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. And please do, because we're going to do later this summer a mailbag episode. So ask us anything. I guess after the nominations, probably you'd want to ask us stuff more so, but ask us still stuff this week because we can maybe read it after our nominated. So we'll
just read the question again and then we'll have to cut it out. So
yeah, it was great. That's why I don't do it live. Here's one from Guillermo Joyce, who emailed us. He writes, "Hey guys, 2-part question. In which category does Better Call Saul have the best shot at winning an Emmy, fucking robbed until now? And does Betsy Brandt have a chance in Guest Actress?" You're the Better Call Saul expert, Joyce. What do you think?
I want to be able to call it an Emmy-winning show. but I have no expectations of them anymore. So if it happens, it happens. But I feel like it doesn't have a great shot anywhere. Like there's sometimes I feel like it should have a good shot here in like sound mixing or something, and it doesn't happen or whatever.
What about cinematography this year?
They've never even nominated for cinematography.
So I feel like the finale is like I think would be their big push, and I can see it getting in.
I would hope it could get in, but I have no expectations. I like my friend and I have joked that it would be funny if Better Call Saul's one Emmy win for his entire run is Bryan Cranston in guest, and he'll win his 5th Emmy for playing Walter White.
I took him out this week, maybe stupidly, because I put in Justin Kirk for Succession, but I'm still not sure that Arian Moayed would get in for Succession, even though I think they do like Stewie. And so maybe I'll go back to Brian in that category, but I still also think he'd be like 4th to win behind like the Last of Us duo and Cromwell. So I don't think he's going to actually win, even if he gets in.
Yeah, I have Brian in 4th. But I would never underestimate them, just like name checking him.
Sure. How about Betsy Brandt then? What do you think?
Again, would love to see it. I do not have her in. I don't know. I don't think it's like kind of like a Michael McKean situation where they missed him for season 3 and then they nominated him as a guest star next. Obviously she was never nominated for Breaking Bad. And I feel like the people who pay attention to that show the most are the writers and not really the actors, or maybe, I don't know, maybe now that the show is over, they've had a chance to catch up with it. So like they're done with the show too. But I don't have her in. I have triple Succession.
Let me see.
Anna Torv, Fiona Shaw, and Claire Foy.
I also have Claire Foy. I think I have opposite Last of Us actors. Let me see. I believe I have Storm Reed because her arc was a little more tragic and felt like a little more substantial. I have Harry Walter, Iama Boss, Melanie Linsky, Storm Reed, Claire Foy, and Fiona Shaw. So I only have 2 Successions. You still stuck with Sherry Jones?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got another one here from this one. I'm just gonna the emailer who emailed us at slugfest@goldenderby.com, very kind. Has his name is Itay, like Italy with no L. So how would you say that, Joyce? How do you say Italy with no L?
Itay? I don't know if it's
I thought Itay too. So we'll go with that. Itay, if this is right, Godspeed. And if it's wrong, I apologize sincerely. Hey, Chris and Joyce, my name is Itay, Italy with no L. I've been watching and listening since the very beginning, and I love you guys. Aw, thanks.
Thank you.
I have some questions. Best costume design for a period piece. Do you think Netflix Transatlantic has a shot at getting a nomination because the dress Gillian Jacobs wears are amazing?
I don't know if that maybe, but
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like a main push for them there.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Number 2, is The Last of Us eligible for best score? Because I believe the music is at least partly taken from the game. Well, it is on the ballot for best score at the very least, and I think it is eligible in that case because they submitted episode 3, which I think maybe is enough of a departure from the game, perhaps.
Yeah, they submitted a long time for
yes
score, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's Gustavo Santaolalla, an Oscar winner.
Yes, I think it could get in.
I do too.
We could talk about music and how our guy Nicholas Bertel will probably not win for Succession.
Will he get nominated for Succession?
I think he'll get nominated for Succession and Andor.
So he'll get nominated for Succession and Andor. Last of Us gets nominated. That's 3. What are the others?
White Lotus, I think will get in. I think Only Murders can get in.
Yep.
Right. I feel like Mando might miss this year.
I think so too. I was actually eyeing up Poker Face.
Interesting.
Love that Nathan Johnson score. But again, the Peacock element.
I don't know. I have to pull up the ballot. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know what else.
All these good shows. What's another good show you like?
I don't
Ted
know.
Lasso, Shrinking.
Music composition, dramatic score.
Stranger Things is on the ballot for episode 9. Could it get in? I think it could, but
you're just in the tank for Stranger Things.
Well, I do think it's good.
You're just gonna nominate it or predict it for all.
I just think these are the categories it could actually get in.
I mean, I think it could get into music supervision, and it could probably it could win again music supervision.
Yep. We have another question from Ite later about music supervision. If you want to do that now, it was who are your hope dictions for best music supervision. Mine are Beef, Yellow Jackets, Maisel, and The Bear.
Great choices.
Can't argue those. Yeah. There was an article going around this weekend, Joyce, that was just really wrong.
Oh yeah, that was over the weekend, and I'm like,
God.
And then, but there are also like some takes about some of the shows mentioned. I'm like,
yeah, I was like, if you're gonna criticize cues, don't come for The Bear, and don't come for Beef, and don't come for Yellow Jackets. Even I think all of those are great. I don't know. I thought those were all good.
And I thought they were all deployed very well.
Yes, those are great picks. I could see all of those getting. I think The Bear could get in for music supervision.
Yeah, for season 1.
Yeah,
season, and then I know so then, because when I was watching season 2, I was like, if it wins music supervision this year, it can win again next year, too.
Right.
Yeah. So I think Maisel can get in. Stranger Things. Okay. The Bear, Beef, of course. Also great needle drops. What else is there? Call Saul has gone in before. I can think it could get in again. They seem to have some appreciation for their music supervision.
Daisy Jones, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I feel like that might maybe have a better shot in like song.
Sure. But there is a lot of like actual
there is. White Lotus?
Maybe. I just feel like the problem with White Lotus is it's like it is great music supervision and the music that they chose is amazing, but there's not like a lot of songs that people are like, oh, I know that's it's like not very recognizable songs, I would argue. You know what I mean? And maybe that does matter.
That doesn't, it doesn't need to be like a famous song. But you know what did have a lot of big famous songs? Love and Death.
Yeah.
And Robin Erdang also, she is the Maisel music supervisor, and she also did Love and Death. So that has a lot of great 70s, 80s bangers.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good nomination. I don't know if it'll get in though. I don't know how strong it is there. But if people just watch the first couple episodes, that's where the bulk of the music is anyway. So I don't know what else had music.
I'm not sure.
Poker Face had some music.
Poker Face had some music too.
Yeah.
Other question here from Ite. Hang on. Another White Lotus question here, which is actually good. I took Sabrina out in supporting actress, and then I thought they nominated the perfect Ray Seahorn just once with an unlimited ballot. I know Joyce can't predict her for the sake of her getting in, which I don't think is true anymore. But why are you guys confident Ray will get in?
Right. Well, I couldn't predict her to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either.
So that's an interesting point. Like, was Ray on because of the unlimited ballot, and will like the non-unlimited ballot hurt her? That was kind of like the argument against like Sarah Goldberg, right? Like that she got on because of the unlimited ballot, and now with the limited ballot, maybe she wouldn't get back.
Yeah, but like I said last week, like Ted Lasso fielded 3 nominees last year with unlimited ballot. Is it gonna like do 3 again this year? I mean, it doesn't really have a third option really for supporting actress, but it is the restricted ballot is supposed to help people like Sarah and Ray. But I think Ray also got in last year on an unlimited ballot finally, because like I was just saying a couple minutes ago, I think the actors were probably finally catching up to the show. Mm-hmm. I think voters are the only one that's like watching it in real time. So maybe they finally caught up to it. Like they were a season behind in nominating Michael McKean too. Yeah. Right? Yep. So assuming they've now like finished the whole series. And she has a great episode, Ray, with Waterworks in the back half. Yeah. And yeah, I guess also like on a restricted ballot, with 8 slots, like you might be less inclined to check off a bunch of people from the same show. I don't think that's as much of an issue on an unlimited ballot because you could be voting for 20 people. So then like 5 people from the same show doesn't feel like that big of a deal.
Right. Last 2 here from Ite. It was a multi-part email, which I love because it gives us stuff to talk about. Why is Linda Cardellini at 100-1 odds? She got in twice with Christina.
She got in once with Christina.
I'm just reading the emails.
Christina got in by herself the first time. I love Linda on the show. I just think, you know, the show finished or aired in November, and I think their focus is really just Christina.
Yeah.
At this point, and there's just 5 slots. I mean, I did have Linda in my predictions for a while, back when we could still predict 6.
It feels like with 5 slots, the idea of Dead to Me getting 2 of those slots when it's a niche show, maybe I'd argue, that finished a long time ago, it seems unlikely, even if it's deserved. 5 slots is just too little to get it in.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with that, because I think the 5 slots this year in the comedy categories, well, actress, not actor, because that's kind of set, is different from 2 years ago when they also had 5, because that's when we were just reaching for contenders because it was the COVID year, you know. And then they ended up nominating Adie Bryant from Shrill and Allison Janney for Mom and Kenan Thompson for Kenan, you know, just like name checking people on unlimited ballot that they're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's going to happen now on a restricted ballot with 5, because I could see someone like Bridget Everett getting in 5, which sounds unlikely because we lost a spot, but that is the type of like passion-backed person.
I do agree. And then the last one's from Ite, and then we got one more email. To wrap this up, some shady remarks. We love shady remarks, Joyce. So this is a lot of hot takes from Ite. Not me saying this. This is the email. Quote, Only Murders is an awful show that only Americans like. Sorry, Selenators. I disagree. GIF. I think that show's good.
Are they trying to bully you out of predicting Selena?
I don't know, but I mean, I might not predict it. Ted Lasso should not get in for writing.
I mean, that's fair.
And House of the Dragon should get in drama directing for the finale. Did they submit it?
What did they submit? I don't even know.
Look, hang on. Scintillating stuff.
I don't. Those are just statements. So
those are his hot takes.
Okay.
And then the last part was they submitted for the Black Queen. Is that the finale?
That was the finale. Yes.
There you go. Last part. Hope you guys love you guys. Enjoy listening. Can't wait for Oscar season. Just saw Asteroid City, and Jason Schwartzman deserves a lead actor nomination. We'll talk about this when we do Oscars.
Do you agree?
No, I don't. Not back on the West bandwagon just yet. Love Wes Anderson, but
I don't. You know, good for him that it's a box office.
Love it. If Wes is successful, that's great.
Yeah.
Last email here from Jason. Emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Jamie Lee Curtis in The Bear. I love watching your weekly show and your excellent analysis of film and television, especially Succession. Take that. This is me now. Take that, haters, right? Because we talk a lot about Succession.
I mean, we haven't talked about Succession, since it ended, really?
No, not really.
Just in relation to its categories.
Yeah. My question is, having watched season 2 of The Bear, is it too early to move ahead to next year's Emmys and lock in Jamie Lee Curtis for guest actress? Her performance was wild and amazing, ride in Fishes, and she brought it home in the finale. It was so great to see her win an Oscar, and now maybe an Emmy too. As we talked about earlier, Joyce, halfway to an EGOT by September of next year. Seems likely.
I would say at this point, when we're 15 months out from the next ceremony, when she's eligible, then yeah, I don't think it's wrong to say that she's a front runner. No, you could also nominate Olivia Colman too in the same category.
Yep.
So yeah, she was definitely coming for that Emmy. And I saw a lot of comments over the weekend being like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis saw all your takes about her Oscar win, and she's like, now I'm going to come for an Emmy.
Interesting. I mean,
we're also recording this today after the Oscars announced that Angela Bassett is going to be one of the honorary Oscar recipients this coming season, which feels very reactionary.
Yes. She'll get an Oscar after all this year, Joyce. We were upset she didn't get one.
It's not competitive, though.
And then she gets it now. It's not competitive, but it still counts. Still holds
They're
Oscar.
just giving it just, optics wise, it would look better if they waited at least a year to give this to her. I mean, obviously she could still win competitively afterwards, but it feels very like sorry for your loss.
It does. And I gotta say, my personal preference, Jamie Lee Curtis on The Bear over Jamie Lee Curtis in Everything Everywhere.
Same. Yes, for sure, definitely.
Really great.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if she can sustain the momentum until next year. I mean, we might not have a lot of shows, so it might not be a problem for her either.
Having seen her way she is an expert at social media, I think she will keep herself
She will
in the
campaign
conversation
next year.
Yeah,
She will.
big time. That's it, Joyce. So we'll be back next week with our final picks. We still ended up going like almost over an hour, I would imagine. There's not much to talk about. That's because we love chatting about this stuff.
I say the same things every single week. I don't know why people listen
It's
to
great.
us.
So we'll be back next week with our final picks. Talk to you then, Joyce. Bye.